Rose here, and shout out to all of you that have made it this far in this 52-week project exploring well-being and accelerated growth. And for week number 30, I want to talk about travel. Now, this is very personal to me in terms of I can in no way claim to be widely traveled enough to be able to speak about these places relative to other places. But what I can do is talk about how each of these places has uniquely touched my life. And what I can also speak to is the profound nature of travel itself, particularly when done with a couple of attitudes. One is humility. Humility that there are other ways of doing things that are better than the way we or our culture does things. And that in order to see that truth, one has to understand that there are other values than the values at the top of our power structure. An example of that being that in the United States, power over, power to buy, and power to appear is one of the key gods. Most of them are gods in a male chauvinistic paradigm. That efficiency, the efficiency of creating external results, that keeping busy as a symbol of efficiency, that these are, for example, three peak values, and that freedom is another thing that is highly valued in the United States. And there are other values that these values supplant, such as the value of joy, the value of innocence, the value of partnering, the value of emoting and deep emotions, the value of attunement, family and community. These are values that are well below the top, for example, US values in their practice, in their praise, in their reward, etc., etc. And so when another country does community better than we do, when another country does healthcare for everyone better than we do, when another country protects the innocence and trust of its citizenry better than we do not assume that they have anything to teach us. What we assume is that because our values are the only relevant values, and are certainly the most important, that because we may be the best at our values, we are the best at everything. Now, this myopic view, which becomes incredibly arrogant in the framework that we are one of literally 10,000 cultures. There have been, by the estimates of anthropologists, 10,000 languages, 10,000 cultures, 10,000 groups of people that thought they had it right. Now, what are the odds? Right now, there are 600 languages and roughly 200 countries. What are the odds that we do all of it right all of the time, and that all 10,000 of these cultures are, in comparison, wrong? What are the odds? They're about 1 in 10,000. And it's much more interesting to travel with the outlook that there are many value hierarchies, that there are many effective strategies for achieving the value hierarchies, each with their own pro and con, and that if we learn about the rest of the world with the same curiosity, joy, interest, and enthusiasm that the rest of the world often learns about us, that the learning can be a two-way street. Who do you want to be? A student that knows it all and learns nothing, or a student that understands that 99.9% of what's out there has not even been established as clearly existing enough to be measured, let alone known? That maybe the key to where we want to go is not in our assumption that we know everything we need to know, but in the assumption that we don't even know what we don't know. And so we don't know where to look for it. But the odds go up of finding it out there. So this is the premise of travel. And along these lines, visiting wildly different places where they do very different things well is a good place to start. So the best thing, of course, building on what I just said, is to go traveling to discover parts of ourselves that are latent. The desert harbors wildflower seeds, sometimes 2, 3, 5, 20 years old, that one rainfall can create a wildflower meadow in a matter of days. And those seeds are latent day after day after day, just waiting for the right condition. Inside of us is a vast panoply of persona, of probabilities, only a few of which have grown and sprouted in the culture in which we've been born. But I guarantee you, had you been born in another country, what you consider you would be very, very different. And as we travel around, sometimes we stay long enough for some of those new parts to sprout. And some of those seeds that lie dormant, that emerge in the new environment of another culture, another country, another temperature range, are seeds that we may find are closer to who we are as human spirit beings than the parts of us that have been nursed since birth in the cultures in which we were born. So let's start with the Findhorn community a little bit north of Inverness in Scotland. This is one of the few communities coming out of the hippie period which is still alive and running. Most of those deteriorate because if you have a bunch of lazy, disorganized rebels, you very rarely get a kind of structure that would hold together. But Findhorn has a very unique history, and among those neat aspects of its deep history, it has a reputation of growing in unusual ways some of the largest award-winning vegetables in history. And their claim to fame, what kind of got them started, was a couple, Peter and Eileen Caddy, who would attune to plant spirits and ask the plants how to take care of them. And this is what produced these astronomically large, delicious organic vegetables. And so that was their claim to fame. But what they've done with that initial experience of attuning to plants is they've built a power structure that I've not experienced anywhere else on the planet. It is a power structure of attuning to energy fields that they call divas, the diva of the plant, the diva of the land, the diva of the building, the diva of the community. What they're dealing with is a variety of fields. And on the hypothesis that there is, in essence, something sacred, a deity, that holds the field for any defined entity, a deity for the kitchen, a deity for the meal, a deity for... And in this way, they hearken back to India, where, if you haven't looked it up, one of the most interesting things is, like, look at the temple of the rats, look at the temple of the monkeys. I mean, when you have monks feeding tens of thousands of rats as sacred entities, and people coming and going, and no bites, nothing, no disease, and the whole purpose of travel is to blow your mind. It's not to change anyone else. It's to, what on earth is that? Because one of the things to be humble to, again, I've learned as I travel around the world, is that we are dramatically affected by the cult of our culture. The systematic brainwashing of carrot and stick, and often insane, like, do this just because I told you, is so dense that by the time we're 12 to 30 years old, we think that this is not only a reasonable way to go about doing things, it is the only way to go about doing things. And as soon as we think that, we have lost the humility to understand 99.999% of what's out there, which is doing it some other way. And so in some of the Indian mythologies, just about everything is sacred. This is sacred. The sacred tree, the sacred cow, the sacred monkey, the temple of the monkeys, the temples of the rats, this, that, and the other. This is a little bit of an interesting expression of that. And here's what floored me at Findhorn. They have an experience called Experience Week. And naturally, because they're famous for plant spirits and giant vegetables, 99% of the people who go there want to have a little taste of that. Like, what's it like to talk to plant spirits? Can I see the huge watermelons, and how did that come about? Because one of the interesting things was that they grew these enormous vegetables by completely unconventional means. I mean, you didn't find these techniques in organic gardening literature. And so it's like, how do these inexperienced elderly couple beat some of the most trained horticulturists of the day using completely unconventional methods that go against the grain, and they don't have any horticultural training? I mean, like, this is weird. And then their answer is, we listen to the plant. We ask the plant what it likes, and the plant says, go get us some seaweed on the beach. So we go get a seaweed on the beach, mix it in like this, then we mix it in like that. And it's like, that's not in the textbooks. It's just what this plant communicated. So that's what we did, and this is what happened. So it's great fun when you learn that someone else is getting better results doing something that shouldn't work by your paradigm. It's great fun because it reminds us there are other ways of doing things. And it's fun to think. I mean, every so often there's a very arrogant inventor that comes along, or pontificator, that says, like in the 50s and early in the 20s, there were famous people that said 99% of all inventions have already been made, and so it's just going downhill from here. And this comes up from time to time. It's all, all the tech companies, they've all been made, it's nothing from here. And then that's always followed by an explosion of things that are so innovative that the people saying that they were already invented didn't even know that they didn't know about them. It's like, who knew? So this is fun. And I experienced this in Findhorn in a phenomenal experience where all these people coming to learn about the garden. There's a very, to experience the community. Some people do house cleaning, some people need to cook, some people, so to experience, the whole group needs to segment into toilet cleaning, house cleaning, cooking, groundskeeping. That is community life there. And so, of course, everyone wanted to talk to the plants and nobody wanted to clean the toilets. That is until they did this phenomenal meditation. And in 5 minutes, without any negotiation, no compromise, people attuned. That's their power structure, attunement. Nobody says you have to do this, you have to do that. They do this attunement process. Now, I was one of them that I came to see the garden, right? After the attunement, they said, what do you want to do, Dane? I said, I want to work in the kitchen. It's like, where did that come from? It came from this meditation process. And it's like, this is incredible. Because every other power or negotiation or communication protocol that I know of would have had this group of strangers arguing and bitter about the fact that 95% of us did not get to talk to the plant spirits. 95% of us, after the process, voluntarily. Because we knew. How did we know? See, that's the mystery. That's the mystery. So Findhorn, the Findhorn community in Scotland, their power structure of non-hierarchical attunement, leading to every decision that's made on the community, that is sustainable, teaching people, financially viable, ecological, their own windmill, this, that, and the other, ecological, for more than 40 years. It is something to learn about. So that's where I would start in northern Scotland. Next, I'd go to Copenhagen. It's nearby. Here's what I learned in Copenhagen. If you're an American like me, you've probably heard about the atrociously high tax rate of the Danish people. 80% of their money going to taxes. Isn't that outrageous? Well, here's something to think about. 50% of my money goes to taxes. Social Security, sales tax, income tax, investment tax, employment this, business tax, business license. This is, 50% of my money goes to one government agency or another in a tax. I have to give 50% of my money to the government. And the Danes give 80%. In other words, they pay 30% more than I do. And the question is, of course, do they get a good return on that 30%? Well, I was expecting bitter, cynical Danish people and business owners that hated their government. No. I go to Copenhagen. I interview 30 random people. Every single one of them likes their government. Not a single one of them complains about their taxes. Every single one of them got paid to go to an excellent college. Got paid, mind you. Got paid to go to an excellent college. And every one of them is working at a job that they like. Why? Because if they don't like their job, they stop. Their income does not go down. They get retrained for a job they're interested in. They don't have to pay for that training. They start work again at a company they like, doing a job they are trained for and want to do. And why would they stop? Not a single one of them was unemployed. They get free maternity leave, male and female. They have exceptional free health care. Their architecture is 300% nicer than the richest county in America, Marin County, where I live. Their parks are nicer. They have bicycle lanes. They have clean energy. And they have more billionaires per capita than the United States. Now, does this sound like they're getting a bad deal? They have no fear for their survival. They have retirement. They have health care. Anyone who's homeless has a house. See, and this is the big joke. And they have no fear. This was the most stunning aha for me. I have had fear as an American citizen my entire life. It doesn't matter how successful I am. I know that I'm about 3 accidents away in my country from being on the streets. I just have to break my back misusing a tool. Some weird gap in insurance happens where the check was lost in the mail, or the healthcare thing doesn't cover it in some weird fine print. Then my landlord, while I can't recuperate, does this. Then, my employee says, you're not running your business very well. I'm going to go work for someone else. And boom, I'm out of savings in a few months and I'm on the street. And I am called a loser. This is an awareness that every American understands at some level. That they are alone fighting against all of these odds and stuff. This is something a Danish person does not have to deal with. So I found just looking at all that, talking with them, to be eye-opening and beautiful. Beautiful. It's a beautiful city. The Danes have a higher quality of life than I do. And it's pretty much assured. And I came away clear that if I could pay an extra 30% on my taxes, be paid to go to college and the whole deal, the whole deal that they've got, the architecture, the whole thing, I'd do it in a heartbeat. So it just turns your perspective around, turn my perspective around. It's one of the nicest cities in the spring and summer to visit in any case. They're doing socialist democracy in a way that works. And we want to learn from winners. And they're one of the 4 most happy countries on earth. Why not learn from that? So next we come to Nai Harn in Thailand. And I'll tell you why I love Thailand so much. First of all, again, the pride in the country. It's so beautiful. Thailand is a non-conquered culture that is much older than our own. England is a relatively non-conquered culture that's quite old. Thailand is a non-conquered culture. And the pride that they have in being Thai, coupled with the curiosity they have about the rest of the world, is magnificent to behold. It's absolutely magnificent. The women in Thailand are proud to be feminine. They're proud to be emotional. They're proud to be devoted to culture and country and family. It is a magnificent counterpoint to the United States. I love it. In addition, there is beautiful warm weather. The food is the best I have tasted anywhere in the world, including, I have the best pizza here, I have the best Indian food here, I have the best Thai food here, I have the best hamburgers. I have the best food anywhere on earth here. I don't know why, but I do. Some of it may be the fact that I'm enjoying myself so much that I just enjoy whatever I'm doing more. From the first day I landed in Thailand 10 years ago, I am 2 to 3 times happier in Thailand than I am anywhere else. Okay, that's terrific. Now comes the great news. It's 30 to 50% less expensive than most other places. A lot cheaper than Copenhagen, a lot cheaper than Findhorn, a lot cheaper than the United States. This lovely apartment on the 2nd floor with a view of the largest stone Buddha in Thailand across natural tropical mountains with no interruptions. A stunning view in a quiet location, just 10 minutes motorbike ride from anywhere I want to be. is $300 a month, including utilities. A price so low that I can sign a 2-year lease in a heartbeat and not even know how often I'll be here. My similar environment where I like it less in San Francisco. My home cost me $4,000 a month. And it is beautiful, no question. But I'm letting it sit empty at $4,000 a month so that I can be here at $300 a month, knowing that all that I get to enjoy here is so much better that I don't even resent the fact that it's empty. Sure, yes, Airbnb and all that. My landlord's not cool with that. So if I want to have that house and it's the nicest place I can find over there, it's got to just sit empty most of the year. So if you do come to Thailand, I recommend you'll typically fly into either Bangkok or Phuket International Airport. In Bangkok, I highly recommend Chatrium Riverside Hotel, a 4 to 5 star hotel, depending on who's rating it, the best experience I've had in Bangkok. Going to Phuket, Navatara Hotel in Rawai, one of the best places to stay. It'll be around $60 to $90 a night. And wonderful staff, family owned, beautiful breakfast, etc. Thailand has a number of top experiences. Swimming in the ocean, kite surfing, paragliding. I just jump off the mountain with my instructor. It's a very casual experience. It's lovely. Heading over to Philippines, you're going to fly most likely into Manila, but you could fly into Cebu. That would be preferable. If you fly into Manila and want to rest there, so I recommend the Pan Pacific. Manila is a horrible place. Get out of there as soon as you can. Go to Panglao Island. You'll fly into Tagbilaran Airport. The Bohol Bee Farm. Quite a nice and reasonable option with beautiful views. Some of the nicest snorkeling and scuba diving I've run into. Again, I cannot claim to be terribly knowledgeable in that area. But value is very high. And again, the world's best zip line that I've come across. You literally fly like Superman across one mountain to another mountain. And it was it's got me all interested in flying in different ways. I took glider lessons after that. I did hang gliding after that. I bought radio controlled planes after that because it's just such an amazing feeling to feel like a bird flying. That's on Panglao Island. Now, just a couple of things. So if you go to these 4 places, you're going to see pros and cons to everyone. So pros and cons and differences to everyone. This is a chance to get to know who you are, what you like, who you become in each different situation. And I'll tell you how I came to Asia for the first time in my life. This was part of my bucket list, something I've talked about before, but I wanted to go to Asia. So I jumped on a plane in December, about 10 years ago, with 6 days notice. I made my bucket list. I decided I'm going to go for it. That very day, I booked a flight to Manila. And it was right after a typhoon and an earthquake. Flights were $900 round trip. Everything was half price. And I sprawled on a half-empty plane on all 3 economy seats, sleeping soundly the whole time for $900 round trip. Why? Because people do a very crazy things around disasters. So this is the crazy thing they do. There is an earthquake, there is a typhoon, blah, blah, blah. It's on the news, and everyone says, don't go there, disaster. But this is the crazy part of this response. First of all, since everyone says don't go there, you've got the place to yourself. Unless you love being swarmed by tourists, you can go to the best tourist places, and the way dynamic pricing works, everything's half price, number one. Number two, the fact that there has been an earthquake a month before has absolutely nothing to do with increasing the likelihood of an earthquake this month. I mean, sure, if your earthquake is still going on and you're flying over in the middle of the earthquake, there could be some after tremors. But if anything, right after a major earthquake hits, that's probably the place to be, because the next major earthquake is probably going to be where you go on vacation to avoid the last one. In other words, it's this kind of lightning doesn't strike twice, So if for some strange reason this one place is struck by lightning once every 50 years, you don't all avoid that place. If you follow the lightning doesn't strike twice rule, you pitch your tent there where the last strike was, because the next one will probably be somewhere else. Finally, the people in these countries that have natural disasters need money. When? Right after a disaster. So it's a very lose-lose kind of plan to wait till someone has a disaster when they need money, then pull all the money out of that area for absolutely no reason, and then go to other crowded places that are more crowded than normal because everyone's going there instead of the serene, peaceful places at half price where they need the money. So it just doesn't add up. So next time you see a disaster at one of these places, Findhorn has a hurricane, Copenhagen has an earthquake or a tsunami or something, Thailand has another tidal wave, or Panglao has a typhoon. Fly on over, help out. Donate something, get a great deal, enjoy the serenity of local culture, and watch the beauty working and rebuilding their lives. So that's my recommendation. And was I inconvenienced by the typhoon? Not at all. Was I inconvenienced by the earthquake? Not at all. Was it great to have 3 seats all to myself to take my first trip to Asia, laying on my back the whole time? Absolutely. So if you do go to one of these locations, if you learn anything, if it accelerates your growth, I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on week 31.